Hello, everyone. My name is Shandaba, and welcome to my podcast, Going the Extra Mile. As a student athlete, I'm curious to what other student athletes do outside of school and sports. This podcast serves as a platform for student athletes to speak about their lives and a space for individuals to spread their knowledge. Hope you enjoy. Okay, this is the fourth episode of Going the Extra Mile, and today we are here with Anya Ramras from Amherst Women's Tennis. She's also a fellow classmate, and very excited to have her on today. She also runs her own Instagram account called Ace Advice, where she gives out advice on like tennis and recruiting and all that stuff. But yeah, today we're here. We're gonna have a good little conversation. We're just gonna fire it off. Let's go.
Yeah, sounds
Yeah.
good.
So yeah, I guess I'll just kind of ask like so you play tennis at Amherst. What's that like?
Yeah, so I love it because I think a big thing is if you get along with your team. And one thing that I was really excited about is that my grade has 5 people, and so that's like 5 girls my age. And then overall, Amherst also has a really big team. We have kind of one of the bigger team in the NESCACs. So we have like around 12 people. A lot of teams usually have like 7 or 8. So we have like pretty big, which is just like a really nice big group of friends, honestly. And we get to
Yeah,
play tennis. We get to live together. We have socials together, and it's just a really nice way to like play the sport I love. And that's like really big. Like when I was trying to choose a school, I wanted to make sure that like I went to a school where I could like play a sport I love and also get good academics.
yeah,
So playing college tennis at Amherst is it's hard. Like I mean, you probably know like with soccer also like it's a lot of time management. So there's definitely times where you're you're really tired and you just want to sleep, but you have practice,
yeah.
Sunday morning. But it's definitely like such a fulfilling experience and
hmm
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like playing college sport is hard. Um, a lot of the times I have to like keep finding motivation, to keep doing my best every day. And like there's days like I'll wake up and like, oh, we gotta go to class and then practice. You gotta do it like 5 days in a row. And then the weekends, you got games. But honestly,
Yeah.
like the motivation is just that like you want to be around those people and that you want to win games together and have the best experience. So yeah, I definitely say it's very worth it. And I'm excited to play at Amherst. I really love it. It's a nice little community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry about your fall season.
Yeah. Honestly, I thought it was kind of inevitable. It's crazy because they remember when this all started. Like people were projecting that like we'd like be done with coronavirus in like May, June, and like
Yeah.
it's just like I feel like it's just gotten worse since then. And yeah, I remember like schools were already like putting out their predictions on like whether or not they'd open or close. And I kind of knew that like if there is no like vaccine there or something, like it's gonna be very hard to play, but it's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy because like tennis is like a very socially distant sport, right? I mean, you're
yeah,
like so far away from your opponent, but the issue is you're touching the same ball. So it's like even if like you're not like physically like pushing each other like you would in other sports, like
yeah,
it you can still get it and it's just crazy.
yeah. So
Yeah, I
you,
don't
so you
know.
guys are you guys play all year round, right?
Yeah, so tennis, we have a mini fall season, which is mainly tournaments. So we can play each other even like in these tournaments. And
hmm
they're usually hosted at other schools. We had a lot of them at Middlebury this past fall,
hmm
which was annoying having to drive there all the time. But
Yeah,
yeah, but it was good. And then in the spring, we have more like you go against one school and then you all play like against everyone.
yeah,
So it's usually 6 singles, 3 doubles. And yeah, that's kind of what counts really.
yeah,
This fall is like good practice for the spring pretty much. So it's kind of nice
yeah,
having a little practice season, honestly.
yeah. So obviously you guys didn't play last spring, but how did you guys do like your first in your first year?
Yeah, so we did really well, and I think we could have done even better. I think we have a really good team and we have really good potential. And then there's just we had a really hard time against Middlebury
Mm-hmm.
my freshman year. And I don't really know why. I think all our matches were really, really close. We ended up getting to the quarterfinals of nationals,
Mm-hmm.
and we lost to Middlebury.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, no, we did really well, and I think we could have done better. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with just confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think like we were going to do really well this year, and that's why it was kind of disappointing because I think we had a really strong fall and everyone was very motivated
Mm-hmm.
and confident that we could do it. I think if you have that goal in mind to win the whole thing, you're not going to settle for less. I
Yeah.
mean, you might lose, but at least you're not settling. So that was kind of like when we had team meetings in the fall and early spring, we were thinking like, what's our goal? And at the end of the day, we were like, we want to win the whole thing.
Yeah.
So just like staying motivated to do better is like kind of the biggest thing. But yeah, we did really well last year. But yeah, it was good. We didn't do less than we thought we would do. We
Mhm.
did a really good job. How did wait, men's soccer did really well in the fall, right?
Yeah.
Finals, right?
So yeah, last fall we went all the way to the NCAA final. And sadly we lost to
Yeah.
Tufts. We always like I don't know. We have this big rivalry with Tufts. It's just I think it's our hardest game of the season for sure. And because last not so our first fall, we lost to Tufts in the Sweet 16, and I think that year we'd never beat Tufts. But this fall we beat Tufts in the conference, but then in NCAA unfortunately lost. But overall, like
Yeah.
it was a great season, and like I don't know, just like going that far, and I didn't I don't know I kind of like knew our team was like really good, but I didn't know how good we could be, and it's just
Yeah.
crazy that we went so far, and I don't know I'm really happy and just kind of sad too that we can't do it again this fall,
Yeah.
but um yeah, I don't know I'm just happy about the season for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything in particular that you guys think you did well in getting to that far? Was it like conditioning or like just really good practices? Do you know kind of what helped you guys the most?
Yeah, I think just like because I think a lot of people think about like the end goal too much.
Yeah.
I think we really did a good job of focusing on each game and how important that game was, um, and making sure that like each game we treat it as if it's a championship game or as if it's the final. Um, so I think that's like one of the biggest things that helped us. And then also like we're always in the film room like analyzing uh practice really good practices. Like the captains would tell us like if we're having a bad practice, the captains would let us know, and we do
Yeah.
our best to make sure that we have good practices because we know that. Also too, like we always think about it like the amount of time we can spend together. We want to prolong that as much as we can, and so if we fight as much as we can each practice, each game, then we can spend the most amount of time with each other. And luckily, we were able to spend the maximum amount of time together. So I think that,
Yeah.
yeah, that's like one of my big takeaways too is that we were able to spend like a very long season together. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. I was
Yeah,
gonna.
that's interesting that you guys oh sorry, I just want to say it's interesting that you guys film practices also. I thought it was just like the games, but that's cool. Sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
mean to interrupt, but I
No,
thought
no,
that was
you're good.
interesting.
Yeah, the practices. Yeah. Oh my God, the practices were cold in December.
Oh my God.
It
I
was
can't
so
even
bad.
imagine.
Like Goodingfield. Or no,
Yeah.
yeah, and Pratt. One day we had to go out there, and Pratt was like completely covered in snow, and so
Oh
the
my God.
facilities like cleared everything, but they didn't clear a path to the field, so we had to run like through like this deepest snow ever to get to the field.
Wow.
Yeah, it was bad, but you know it was fun. Like some of like you only get like those kind of practice like a couple times a year, so
Yeah.
yeah. But no, I was gonna ask, what was I gonna ask? I'm totally blanking now. um. Oh yeah, so I was gonna ask. So what are your plans for the fall?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be remote. I think as most juniors will be. I
Yeah.
think just because we're given the least amount of priority in going back to campus, but also I was gonna choose remote anyways, just because it doesn't sound very fun to be on campus, I don't
Hmm.
think. It's just I'd rather just stay at home because I have my sister here. She goes to Williams, but she's also choosing to be remote next semester. So
Yeah.
I'll have my sister, and so we'll be playing some tennis. There's literally courts right across the street from my house, so we
Yeah.
just go and play whenever we want.
Yeah.
And it's nice. I'll be training for the spring because hopefully there's a spring season.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's definitely hard training not knowing when you're competing again. Like I feel
Yeah.
like that mentally is so hard for me because it's always good for me to go and play, but sometimes I'm like, I just want to take another day off. But
Yeah.
it's, you gotta keep playing, like it's your sport. But I just like
Yeah.
I don't know when I'm competing again. It's
Yeah.
frustrating.
For sure. What are your teammates thinking about?
Yeah, I think so. I think everyone so the incoming freshmen I think are going back. And then I think the two sophomores are gonna go back, I think also. And their practices are gonna be interesting. So I'm not sure if they can do lifts, but when they play tennis, I know that they have to pick up the balls with their racket and they like can't like yeah, they can't like touch any of the balls. Like everything has to be on your racket.
Mhm.
And you have to like yeah, still be socially distant when they play. So that'll be interesting. I'm excited to see how that goes for them.
Mhm.
And then juniors will be all remote. I think we're just gonna I think a few of them are gonna live together. Yeah, I think a few of them are gonna live together. And maybe play some tennis, and
Mhm.
then yeah, then I'm staying in Connecticut. I'm not really sure. I think everyone's just kind of gonna be in their own little areas.
Yeah.
We're not living all together though,
Yeah.
which I know like some groups will be. I think like people are like renting houses and stuff together,
Mhm.
but we're not doing that ourselves. And then yeah, we have one incoming senior, and I think I don't know what she's doing. I think she's also going to try to live with people, but I'm not too positive on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you guys?
Yeah. So I'm also doing remote. And for me, like, I was thinking about taking a year off, but to be honest, I just want to graduate as soon as possible. And I
Yeah.
so I'm a math major and don't really need to be on campus for that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I kind of want to get it done, and I would love to play like as many seasons as I could, but I mean, I also came to Amherst for school, so I think that's more the priority. Um, but I think I'm like I'm the only one in my class doing remote, so they're all taking a year off. I know
Oh, really?
yeah. So
Wow.
Herman he's actually in Ireland right now. He's playing. Um,
Really?
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then a lot of the guys want to go play abroad. Um, so that should be fun. I guess if I'm doing remote, I could try to do that too. We'll see if it's possible, but yeah, I know the incoming first years, they're all going.
Mhm.
Sophomores are kind of split, and then the seniors are like, I think they're like half and half, like going. But some of them are thinking of
Yeah.
doing like the house thing that like your friends are talking about too. So
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, there's no chance I would want to go back to school. Like it just sounds like prison, to be honest.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like I mean, you can't like socialize. Like you
Yeah.
just can't. You need like permission from the school to
Mhm.
socialize, and that's just it's crazy. I mean, obviously like they're doing it right. Like they don't want people to like get sick and then everyone gets it all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But like I mean, at that point, just I would stay home. I mean, you also don't have to pay for room and board. I
Yeah.
mean, it's kind of a win-win.
True. True. Yeah. Um. Yeah. So you want? Did you? Oh, actually, I'll ask one more question. So tell us about your Insta page, Anya or Ace Advice. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so kind of a backstory. So when I was 15, I always knew I wanted to do something in sports, and I don't
Mhm.
know, I was always like that like girl in like middle school who like talked to the guys about like basketball games, and they're like, "What do you talk? Like you don't know anything. Like go away." But it kind of like motivated me. I was like, no, like I know stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know a lot more about tennis than basketball,
Mhm.
and things like that. So I was like, okay, I'll make something tennis themed. So I started a tennis blog. It's still up and running.
Mhm.
I'm actually writing a new post soon, but
Yeah.
yeah. So when I was 15, I started Ace Advice blog, and I just pretty much analyzed matches and gave advice and like saw what the pros were doing well and what they weren't doing well, and then people can use that advice and translate it to their own games. And I love it. I mean, some people looked at it and were like, "You're writing essays, like maybe write simpler stuff." But
Yeah.
I wanted to keep it unique, and I wanted to really give some detail because I feel like that's the most important thing. Tennis is a game of strategy, and you
Mhm.
got to know your stuff to like play well.
Yeah.
So I thought that was important. And then, yeah, during quarantine, I was just kind of thinking like, I'm doing a lot of internships right now with like media and stuff. And
Mhm.
I really enjoy it. So I was thinking, like, what do I want to do when I grow up? And like the entertainment industry sounds really interesting.
Mhm.
And like maybe being like a sports agent or talent manager, something like that.
Mhm.
So I was kind of like, what can I do? So yeah, I was like, I'll start a YouTube page or YouTube channel. And I
Yeah.
pretty much just took my Ace Advice blog and
Mhm.
then translated it into like I'll talk about stuff also. So
Mhm.
I'm pretty much talking about match strategy, tips on like certain strokes, and then interviewing people, trying to get some insight into the life of like a coach and athlete,
Mhm.
and like college tennis, college recruiting. So yeah, and then my Instagram's just kind of like some summaries about what those posts are on my YouTube channel. And then also it's a great way for people who, if they have any questions, they can DM me on that page. So yeah, it's just kind of like a multimedia thing now. I have my
Yeah.
blog, I have my channel, I have my Instagram,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'll keep it for as long as I can. I mean,
Yeah.
who knows? Like yesterday, I interviewed someone who coached. You probably don't know her, but this player, her name's Bethany Maddox Sands, and she's a seven-time Grand Slam champion,
Yeah.
and an Olympic gold medalist. And I was like, I can get him, I can get to interview him. I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully in the future I can interview even more people
Yeah.
like that. So yeah, it's exciting, and people should check it out.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No, I'll make sure to subscribe.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Also, I read this book called Crushing It by Gary V, and he gives a lot of tips on like podcasts, YouTube, and like like the social media platforms and how to like kind of build your brand.
Oh,
And
nice,
that's like kind
cool.
of what motivated me to start like YouTubing, and so definitely recommend it. And like you'll see, he has examples of people who've read his books and now they're like thriving in their businesses. So yeah, I'd recommend that if because I guess you're starting now and it's just like
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, for sure. I was actually thinking the other day, I'm like, pretty much the only followers on my Instagram for Ace Advice are my followers for my main Instagram.
Yeah.
So it's like the same people seeing it.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to add some hashtags, but like it's not being
Yeah.
successful yet and like getting other people on it. So yeah, no, I'll definitely look into that because I definitely want to grow it as much as I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. It does take time though. I have the same problem with you. Like my pages are just all my friends. And
Yeah.
I only have a couple subscribers on YouTube, but it takes time to grow, so we'll get there
Yeah.
eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll subscribe to Extra Mile also.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Do you have any other questions, I guess?
Yeah, I guess I can ask you kind of like why you chose Amherst. Because like I know you mentioned earlier like the academics
Hmm.
are really important, and like that was definitely a big thing for me also. But what kind of other schools were you looking at and things like that?
So I was talking to an Ivy League, yeah, I was talking to Yale. I was talking to Dayton in Ohio, Kenyon, another liberal arts school,
Yeah.
um, and DePaul in Chicago. Um, Yeah. So I was really like debating whether like D1 or D3, and I guess what's best for me in the long run. And my dad was like really helpful. He like knew a lot about like the schools, and he kept reminding me that like Amherst is probably the better of all of these, or Amherst and Yale, because at the end of the day you're gonna get the best education from those schools. And so I really like wanted to push for Amherst and Yale. And honestly, it came down to Amherst because I think the head coach just wanted me a lot more, and they gave me an offer like as soon as they could. And yeah, it was like they were kind of waiting, like to say, oh, we'll like a couple months, we're looking at some other players too. So I just I felt like yeah, I gotta pick Amherst. Like it's a really good school. And yeah, also like the soccer team is insane. Like they won the national um, championship in 2015, and they have like an insane win record. And I was just like, okay, this seems like a team that I want to be on. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, that was a big part of my decision was soccer, and just the reputation of Amherst, and definitely our head coach too. He's really insane at recruiting. Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So I'm curious what the difference is between D1 and D3 soccer, because I know it's like different for a lot of sports, but
yeah.
what's kind of like the main differences?
I think that the time commitment, like I feel like I don't know. I think well, okay, for us, definitely like one thing I noticed is that our coach is like school's a priority and then it's sports. So it's like, he has our time with us and he makes sure like he uses like all that time. But then when we're not playing soccer, like he's just like he leaves us to do whatever we want, and if we need any help, he offers it. But he wants to make sure that like we're doing well in school. And I'm sure it's the same for D1, but I feel like D1 you have to spend more time like, in the athletic facility or playing soccer or around the team. And then I'm trying to think what else. I think maybe a little bit of the level too. Um, but honestly, like I think the best D3 teams can definitely compete with D1 teams. Um, but it's just that, I think the D3 teams, I think school is more of a priority. And I think a lot of D1 people, they want to play after college. So they want to be like at that really high level. Um, but yeah, and I think the time commitment, I think is one of the biggest differences. Yeah.
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 Yeah, no, I think actually it's the exact same for tennis. Definitely like there's some like I got some offers from D1, so it's definitely like the good D3s can play against D1 players and like beat them even. Like there's definitely less of a difference in level
Mhm.
with like the good D3s. And then yeah, like the time commitment is big, academics is important, so you got to make sure that yeah, your coach, wants you to do well in school also because a
Mhm.
lot of times you can have a coach who's like okay, do you want to be at practice or study more? And obviously, in our schools, like they're like, you should go study.
Mhm.
Just give it your all in the practice as long as you can, and then go study. But at a lot of the D1 schools, they're like, no, you got to play. Like, sorry, like you're on a
Mhm.
scholarship for the sport, so you gotta you
Yeah.
gotta play hard. And I think that's also like another thing. Like I know one girl who plays at Utah, and before she got there, she had a knee injury, and she really needed to take some time off. And like the coach was like, no, like you gotta like play, like take some pain meds and get on
Wow.
the court. Like it's kind of crazy how like they don't even like care like honestly too much about like your health. Like as long as you're playing, that's all
Mhm.
they care about. Like they just want you
Yeah.
to play. And
Yeah.
I definitely didn't want that. So that kind of scared me off from D1 a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. I also think, well, because they're giving out scholarship money, I think like they want to make the best of it. Whereas like D3, it's just all like financial aid and grants, so it's not like as
Yeah.
serious. But I still think like we can definitely compete with D1 and easily like a lot of. I'm sure it's the same for you too, but I feel like a lot of our teammates could easily be playing D1. It's
Oh
just
yeah.
that, yeah, they decided that they wanted to go to the like better school academically, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah. What was it? How was being? Yeah. What was your recruitment process like?
Yeah, so pretty much for D3, you can start talking to coaches your junior year, at the beginning of your junior year, I think.
Hmm.
So pretty much what I did is I did some research. And when I say research, mainly asking my sister because she was 2 years ahead doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So I kind of just asked her honestly. Um, and yeah, then you pretty much email coaches that you're interested in, and if they're interested in you, they'll email back. And then because I was in Arizona and I was looking at colleges in the Northeast, it was kind of difficult because like I wanted to visit, but I didn't really have like financially the means to like just like go because
Yeah.
D1 they pay for you, but D3 they don't.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like, okay, I don't really know what to do with that. But I was able to do some unofficials, and that really gave me even a better kind of look at what I wanted. So then I was
Hmm.
like, yeah, these NESCAC schools are great. And then I went to these showcases. So there's a Yale showcase, there's a Harvard showcase, and then there's this New Balance high school tournament for high school players.
Yeah.
So I went to all three of those, and pretty much coaches aren't allowed to ever talk to you, but at those showcases they are. So
Yeah.
you can like go up to them and like talk with them and like get to know them. Um, and then yeah, you kind of just have email correspondence with the ones you like. And yeah, I was looking at some Ivies, but then I got injured. Like I was pretty highly ranked, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to like Princeton. Like I was so excited. I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
I'm such a Princeton girl.
Yeah.
But then yeah, I got injured, so Princeton stopped talking to me.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, okay, D3. And so yeah, the little Ivies were really really cool. Like Middlebury, Amherst, Williams, Tufts. I loved Tufts. Like
Yeah.
I totally could have seen myself going there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really comes down to like the visits, so you can really tell. And then yeah, so my sister committed to Williams. So I kind of got a little bit of insight on how she liked it there. Um,
Mhm.
and I realized that like maybe that wasn't for me. So I was like, okay, maybe Amherst is. So I went to this doubles camp. I was still 16, which is crazy, but I went to this doubles camp and I pulled aside the head coach, Jackie Bagwell, after the camp. And I was like, hey, just so you know, Amherst is my number one choice. And she was like, oh, really? And then I was like, yeah. So she's like, okay, well, you would have a spot if you committed and did early decision. I was like, okay.
Mhm.
So I was 16. I committed to Amherst, and it was crazy, and like I don't regret it at all.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's definitely interesting the recruiting process. I'd say like you really have to make sure that you're kind of not annoying, like that's not the word, but you kind of have to be a squeaky wheel. Like you have to like constantly reach out to coaches, like
Mhm.
make sure they remember you. Like those are really important because like you're competing with so many people to get into these schools. So like really get to know these coaches personally, like always reach out. Like that was like really big for me. Like I was constantly emailing, like since
Yeah.
I could. Obviously there's rules, but like the day I could, I emailed like so many coaches.
Yeah.
But yeah, I I was a successful recruiting process for me, luckily.
Yeah.
But yeah, how about you? What kind of things do you do for soccer?
Um, Honestly, it's pretty much the same thing. And when I guess when you're a when in my sophomore year, I started sending emails to coaches.
Hmm.
Um, and then just getting my name out there. And then I believe in my junior year, that's when, or no, sophomore year, I also went to camps. Um, I know our head coach runs a camp called PPA, and the one I went to was in Florida. Um, and like I don't know, it was just such a nice like place, like lots of fields, and we just played like all the time. Um, and that's when I really got to know him, the Yale coach. And I don't know, there's a bunch of big schools there, like Michigan, um, Princeton, just I don't know, a bunch. I can't remember all of
Wow.
them, but yeah. Um, and you just play, and they give you an evaluation after, like like what you're good at, what you could work on, like what kinds of schools you could go to, like maybe you're like a high division one or like a Division 2 or whatever, but they like give you an evaluation, which is really nice. And then what's also nice is that the college coaches are your head coach for the games.
Oh
So,
wow.
oh yeah, I was lucky. I play with the Yale coach was my coach for like the whole thing, and we got along really well together. I went to their camp, did well, and that's how like was talking to them for a long time. But the
Mhm.
difference with them is that they were talking to a bunch of players, so like they were wanting me to wait until like December, which is right right when the deadline is for regular, and I was like, sorry, I can't do it. Like if I'm getting something in
Yeah.
July, like I'm doing it. So
Yeah.
yeah. But honestly, it's the same thing, like going to those showcases and then coaches coming to see you, and then once you're a junior, you can talk to them and just make sure you're upfront with your coach or with them, and you keep them updated. And it's almost like it's like your first like kind of like it's almost like trying to get a job, like applying for a
Yeah.
job. It's like the first bit of professionalism you learn as an athlete is like trying to get to trying to play for college. So
Yeah.
um yeah, that's how mine went. Very similar to yours. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually very surprised at how similar tennis and soccer is in that like everything. Like I was expecting like so many more differences, but it seems like
Yeah.
a pretty similar process. Yeah.
Yeah. But also it's different. Like if I guess for international students, it's a lot different. Like they had to send in film. Or coaches might not always be able to go abroad to watch you.
Right.
So I'd say like that's the biggest difference. But if you're in the U.S., it's pretty much the same thing for
Yeah.
for that. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean that's all the questions I have. If you have any more, feel free. I mean, you can go on.
Yeah. No, I think we covered like a lot and that was super interesting. I learned a lot
Yeah.
about soccer.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's really cool how like at 16, like you're already committed. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks before my birthday. So like the first day you can commit is July 1st and I committed July 2nd,
Yeah.
which is actually my sister's birthday.
Yeah.
But yeah, then 2 weeks later I was 17. So I wasn't like I'm not like super young for like my grade,
Yeah.
but yeah, I was pretty young.
Still cool. You can at least say 16, not 17.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's actually yeah, I don't remember being that young. Like we're getting so old now. It's
Yeah,
scary.
no. Like we're almost done too. This is like junior year and then one last year. And it's the real
Yeah,
world. If
time
there is a real
flies.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, honestly, thanks for coming on, and I'm always willing to do this if you want to do this again at some point. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
All
Sounds
right.
good. Well, have a great rest of your day.
Yeah. Have a good rest of your summer.
Yeah, you too. All
Yeah,
right.
we'll
I'll
see
see
you.
you.
Thank you for watching this episode of Going the Extra Mile. I hope you were able to take away a thought or two from the conversation. For future episodes, subscribe to my channel and make sure your notifications are on. If you enjoy this episode, pop a like. All the best.